Hi everyone, it's Jack here from Esports Live. Sorry to crash the podcast. A quick thank you to you all for all your support so far. We hope you like what you're hearing, even if our advice is absolute nonsense. Make sure you subscribe to our videocast on YouTube and Twitch channels, as well as follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, or if you prefer the podcast, subscribe on Spotify and Apple. Search Esports Live now on any of the platforms to get involved. We've got some exciting things happening in the background. Get ready for the Euros and the Fantasy Premier League season 21-22. Get involved now, don't miss out, and enjoy the pod.
Fantasy managers, welcome to you around the world. Every time you are listening to the podcast, and welcome back to another edition of FPL Addicts and Esports Live fantasy weekly videocast and podcast. And one utterly bonkers week it has been for football. There has been so much to talk about, but we will keep it just to FPL as much as we can this week, as we know that's what you're here for. And we've got two of the usual culprits with me today. We've got Jack from Esports Live. How are you doing, mate?
Very good, mate. I can't believe this week. What a crazy week. I nearly launched the Super League Fantasy League this week.
I did make that joke to Ollie midweek. I said, are we going to have to move over to Super League, or what's going to happen with this?
Oh, it was an insane start to the week. All that news coming out. But luckily, the football fans got what we wanted. We prevailed. We got through, and football is back.
It was nice to see football fans agree on something for once. And we'll move on to you now, Statman Dave. And it's really nice to have you back on again. I think this is the third or fourth week on the dot that you've been on. So how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, doing all right. The super sub when the other guys are away, Statman Dave comes to play.
I think you might have been earning yourself a regular on this podcast so far, mate. You know, Ollie and Matt have been absent a little bit, so maybe you've secured one of their positions and you'll get a little pay rise soon, but we'll have to see about that. And we will move on now to the FPL side of things, as mentioned, and we will start off by just going through three shock results. So the first one, which I don't think many people saw coming, other than maybe Ollie, who did mention to me earlier in the week that he thought Newcastle were going to beat West Ham. As he stated, you always beat West Ham, and I told him he was an idiot. But he was right. We ended up prevailing 3-2 at St James's Park with goals from Joe Willock, Joe Linton, and own goal from Issa Diop, which West Ham couldn't equalise through Jesse Lingard in the 80th minute, and Issa Diop also scored down the other end. Craig Dawson got himself sent off early into the first half as well, and that was a pretty bonkers game, lads. I won't lie to you, but we've got a resident Man United fan on the show now as well, so I'm sure he'll be more than happy to discuss Manchester United Burnley.
Yeah, listen, to be fair, just before we touch on to the best team in the world, United, I'm just going to go back to Newcastle. Like that, how was you feeling after that when that obviously they got the third goal with Willock? And obviously I know you went a bit crazy on the WhatsApp, but surely that wasn't justified in there. Were you share a hand through the living room running around or what?
Started sprinting around the house, mate, celebrating. It was quite a crazy game because, obviously 2-0 up, you think it's coasting against 10 men, and then 2-2, and you see that third goal go in and you thought that was it. So I was really, really happy, mate.
Yeah, it was intense for the neutrals for sure. I think obviously when we were chatting on the WhatsApp group, we were going Lingard all over it for a goal to make it 2-2, and it was a bit of nail biting stuff on it. And you were screaming for Bruce to make that change, and within 80 seconds, Willock scored.
Yeah,
was it?
Yeah. I think Kevin Friend must have just had Jesse Lingard in his fantasy team, wanted to give him a goal for the week. But really good result for Newcastle, and it sort of thwarts West Ham's top four hopes. But we'll have to see how that pans out for the end of the season. Yeah,
cracking result for them, and now moving back onto where the business end of the league, where United are chasing top position. We've got a great result. Like Burnley's always obviously a tricky one, as you boys know, always difficult to play against. But with I think obviously Greenwood playing up top was nice and fresh because he's a lovely player, Greenwood, and they play him up top and rotate him around the team in there, and Cavani getting on the goals as well. It was nice to get a few goal scorers on there, and even Donny got a few minutes and getting the assist, so it was cracking. But yeah, United are always looking good in that second half as well. Always like to make it a bit dodgy in the first half, but it didn't look brilliant. But then second half later looked a lot better, and Greenwood's one to look out for now.
Yeah, he definitely is. Obviously, he's a midfielder in FPL, so he's definitely one that's going to be on a few people's radars, we would imagine. But a really good result for Man United there, and I'm sure Jack will be just as thrilled as I was.
What do you reckon with the... do you reckon we can get down the necks of City or not? What do you reckon?
I don't know, mate. I think it might be too late. They're not looking as good, and they'll start rotating now. But you both got European competitions that you're probably, well, we assume you're going to be allowed back into now. I'm assuming that's the way it's going to work. I don't think they won't let you back in, so we'll just have to see. I mean, anything's possible, isn't it? But personally, think it'll probably be a bit too late for you lot, unfortunately. So no title charge.
All right, mate. Well, good luck on the other end with the relegation battle.
Yeah, well, we'll just have to see how it pans out for both of us at the end of the season. And we'll move on to you now, Statman Dave, and you're going to dissect Leicester City 3, West Brom 0, an utterly dominant performance from the Foxes.
Yeah, look, I suppose it wasn't a surprise that Leicester got up, but obviously 3-0 was probably more than most expected. And we had Vardy find some form. He's been a bit missing the last few weeks, and but no surprises with Alejandro scoring. But the Evans 1.3% ownership with the goal from defence. So if you're one of the lucky people to have him, then that's a big 15-point windfall with the 3 bonus points. So yeah, very good win for Leicester.
A new strike force, that Alejandro and Iheanacho and Vardy up top.
We'll have to add that to the long list.
That was a Guru special. A Guru special, that one. But Kelechi's been banging him in, hasn't he? He's on absolute fire.
Yeah, he's been brilliant past couple of weeks. He's helped out a lot of fantasy managers for sure. And we'll stay on the topic of Johnny Evans, as you said, Statman Dave, and he's a part of my shocks of the week. So he obviously got a goal, a clean sheet, and 3 bonus, which gave him 15 points this week. And as you said, 1.3% ownership. If you had him in your team, you're definitely going to be shooting up the mini leagues. And if you had him, you definitely got rewarded for that. And secondly, we've also got another man that Jack was talking about, Mason Greenwood, 2 goals from up top. He's a midfielder in FPL, so he gets the 5 points for the goals as opposed to 4. So he got 15 points as well after getting 3 bonus. And then equally to both of those scores with 15 points was my third shock of the week, which was Gylfi Sigurdsson, who got 2 goals and 3 bonus points, which also gave him 15 points. And the average this week was 47 points, and the highest was 120. And I think it's safe to say, Jack, that our Harry Kane shout sort of paid off in the end. It was better than going with Son, I think. So, I'm really happy about that, and I'm sure you are as well, mate.
Yeah, absolutely buzzing. I think Statman had him as well. I think it was us 3 who had him as a triple captain this week.
Wasn't it?
So I think that's why we all got invited back onto the VOD this week, because we all had him as triple captain, because the other 2 don't know what they're on about, do they?
They mustn't do, mate. That's why they've not come on today. They're not missing it because they've got work or whatever. It's because they didn't triple captain Harry Kane. That's why.
I know they pulled the trigger on it too early, the triple captain wildcard.
I think so, mate. I think so. And we'll just have to see how that pans out for them towards the end of the season. But what we'll do now is we'll move on to our teams and review them. So we'll start with myself. And as we just mentioned, triple captain played, 67 points, 20 points above the average. Mendy didn't even start this week, lads. It's been an absolute mare since he's been in my team. They kept the clean sheet, Chelsea, but he didn't play. It was Kepa who was the preferred man over him. And then the defence really didn't contribute much to my team this week with the 1 point in total. John Stones with the -2, Diaz with 2, and Dallas with 1. Son, who gave me a restless night on Friday before that Spurs-Everton game, stuck as my vice-captain, got me 12 points. Then Lingard with the 7 after his goal against Newcastle. Fernandes with another blank, unfortunately. Salah with a blank. Kane, who I stuck the armband on. Iheanacho with 6, and then Bamford with 2. And then if we look over to my bench, Smith Rowe was the only person who was doing anything of any sorts, which capped off my game week, giving me 67 points, lads. So I wasn't too disappointed with that one at all. In a week, 20 above the average for most weeks, people will usually take that one. And we'll move on to Jack's team now, if it will load for me, which I'm not too sure if it's going to do so.
Not having a moment in there, is it? But listen, El, great scoring there, mate, and you've been performing pretty consistent. I think 60 to 70 scores, pretty more the higher end of the point scoring this week.
Yeah, mate. Let's have a quick look at yours for a minute. Then 78 points. Definitely didn't see that this week. So what went right for you this week, mate?
Yeah, obviously the Kane triple captain shout went well, and Son delivering when in Kane's absence in those couple of games. I actually left 15 on the bench as well with my Brighton assets. If you scroll down there, yeah. So I had a bit of a nightmare there in terms of I didn't see Chelsea only drawing 0-0 with Brighton. I didn't see Brighton coming away with that 0-0, but they stepped up well, and I didn't take any hits for the first time this time. So I brought Cody in and he obviously delivered with the 7 points there with their win. It was a toss up between him and Saiz for Wolves. I think Saiz got 8 in there, so yeah, Cody delivering with 7, still not bad. And Kelechi for Leicester getting the 6 points. So that was cracking this morning, for Leicester versus West Brom. I didn't see Vardy. I didn't realise Vardy might get up there, but Kelechi delivering the goods got me right up there. So happy days, happy with the 78 for sure.
Yeah, and another man who I'm pretty sure it's the trio again, lads, that was happy with Iheanacho and Kane this week is Statman Dave, who's got 72 points as well. Another score in the 70s, which is just brilliant for this week, who also had Kane and Iheanacho. So what went right with you this week, Statman?
Well, obviously the triple captaining of Kane, that was half my points for the week. Couple of hits with Alexander-Arnold and Lingard as well. A few other contributors, but they were the main 3 really.
Yeah, Trent Alexander-Arnold is one of the most transferred in players for this week. I checked it just before, and he's becoming quite the hot prospect as the season winds down. Liverpool's fixtures, if we just take a quick look at them right now, they look at that green. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 green fixtures, and then a nice easy one at Old Trafford against Man United. So you'd expect a fair few points from Trent Alexander-Arnold there, and a lot of people will be getting him in their teams this week. And in their absence now, we'll move on to Ollie and Matt's teams. Ollie got a little bit worse than us this week with 57 points. And just look at that, Jack. He's got quite unlucky with 2 of his defenders there getting sent off this week, Dawson and Stones. Dawson with the -3, Stones with the -2. And that sort of hindered his week this week for sure.
I don't think Ollie will expect anything less from us, but yeah, listen, it's good that he got lower points. It means everyone else can catch up, and Elliot can steam ahead a little bit further. But it's listen, he did get unlucky there. Stones has been so good all season, hasn't he? And that knee high tackle he did. Listen, I think he probably deserved to get sent off with that one. So I think he needed a bad run again. Well, a bad game this season. Stones has been too good, hasn't he? And then obviously because I think Ollie's already used his triple captain, so I know he captained Kane in there, so he lost out on those 12 extra points, which would have took him up to the high 60s. And yeah, he's probably a bit unfortunate, but listen, well deserved.
It's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes in FPL. It can be an absolutely cruel game. And we'll move on to Matt's team now quickly as well, who didn't have the best of weeks. All above the average this week, though, lads, so we can take that trophy home for every single one of us. Matt with 53 points, 6 points above the average. He had Martinez, Kufal with 4, Son, who actually went with Son as his captain in the end, which was, fair enough to him. He went for the differential, and it didn't really have much effect at all. In the end, it was a big toss-up between Kane and Son, and in the end, it really just didn't really affect us at all, did it? So, he was another one that had Stones as well, and I think a lot of people had Stones this week. So, they all got quite unlucky there. And Diaz, Man City haven't kept a lot of clean sheets. They were doing it earlier on in the season. They've sort of struggled a little bit. But I want to talk about Daniel Podence here, Dave. He's a differential. You've had him in your draft team a fair bit this season, haven't you, I believe? Or is it Neto that you've had? And, he's definitely not a bad shout with Wolves' favourable run of fixtures coming up.
Look, I've had them in the team at various points during the season. They've sort of been traded in and out a little bit. I haven't really stuck with them too much. They've sort of been commodities that I've sort of ditched after a couple of weeks. So depending on fixtures.
Yeah, definitely not bad shout at all for Wolves' good run of fixtures coming up. But that concludes our 5 teams for the week, and that is how we went.
Oh, looks like Elliot didn't fancy finishing off the podcast. So Elliot's just jumped off. I'm sure he'll join us back on in very shortly. Here we go. Where is he? There he is. Do you fancy
the internet?
Take a quick toilet break then, did you, El?
The internet's ducked out, lads. The internet's ducked out. I am back. What I was trying to say before the internet cut me off is we'll move on to our transfers for the week. And the reason that we're going to do our own little section for this is because I've decided that I'm going to be playing my wild card this week. There's not many games left in the season, lads, and I think it's the time to play it this week so I can field a full team, a full 11 for this week. So this is it's going to be: Diaz, Son, and Kane, and Schmeichel all on the bench. Sanchez, who I brought in this week, Kabak, who I brought in this week, Dallas, Castagna, who I brought in this week, Ayet Nouri, who I brought in this week, Lingard, Greenwood, who I've also brought in this week, Jack Harrison, who I brought in this week, Salah as the captain, Bamford, and then Lord Iheanacho up top. So what do we think of that, Jack? What do we think of a couple of transfers in there? Not as many as I'd like to be making, but I definitely think it's worthwhile wildcarding.
Yeah, mate. I think obviously you've got the Leicester assets in there, which is great because they've got a good run of fixtures. Wolves got a good run of fixtures. You've got how much is Kabak? Is he quite? He's pretty cheap, right?
He's 5 million, I believe, mate.
5 mil, right? Okay. Yeah, listen, he's a good shout. And then you've got obviously the Leeds triple up there. What are they looking like for the next? Obviously, you got United next. So, did you fancy that? Did you, or is it for a future for the remaining weeks?
I'll give you a look now, mate. It's definitely for the remaining weeks. Because after Man United, they've only got Brighton away, Tottenham at home, and then 3 nice green fixtures in a row just to wind down for the season.
They've got a nice finish. Who's on your bench at the moment? You've got your Tottenham assets. Obviously, they'll probably have they've obviously got a blank this week with your City assets, which is nice. You've got a nice squad going on. Got a good bit of depth and going into the season. I don't know about the Leeds triple up for this week, but you've got no choice in terms of that because you're looking ahead.
Yeah, I looked at Jared Bowen instead of Jack Harrison, but I just didn't fancy it this week. I think I do fancy Leeds to score at least one against you lot, so I'm hoping that it can be a Bamford goal and a Jack Harrison assist. But I do obviously favour the Red Devils to come away with the 3 points from Ellen Road there. But no, in general, I'm pretty happy with the team there, and that's how I'll be going into game week 33 with my team. Statman, are you making any moves this week? We obviously heard that you made 4 transfers last week, I think it was. So are you doing anything? Are you going to do the infamous rollover?
No rollovers for me. As Pelaqueta out, Coleman in to just shore up the defence. Got a couple of injuries as well, so Lacazette's going to be on the bench, and hopefully Creswell gets up because I don't have any spare players for this week.
That's a fair transfer to make, mate. I think a lot of people bought into the Chelsea hype, including myself, and tried to get a lot of their defensive assets in and everything, and it's sort of crumbled a little bit for them at this stage of the season, but we'll have to see how they finish off for the rest of the season. And Jack, what about you, mate? What are you doing this week? Making any moves?
Yeah, I've made some moves. I was telling Statman before we came on live, I've actually taken a -8 already.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've taken I was looking at the fixtures, and I think I could only get initially 9 players on the field for the weekend. So I thought, I'll make some transfers. I actually made them very early on just to make sure I didn't lose out on any value. So I brought Salah, Jota, and Watkins in. I've taken my 2 Spurs assets out, Kane and Son. And also, who else I've taken? I've taken out someone else, but it means I've got a strong team obviously going into the game week, and I'll get my Tottenham assets back in. And then I think, is it going to be a double? I think it's going to be obviously a double game week 35 they're proposing, or 36 for quite a few of the teams.
Yeah, I believe so, mate. I was chatting to Ollie about that today, and we weren't too sure ourselves, but we know that there is a double game week coming up at some point towards the end of the season.
So I'll definitely get them back in. It's obviously a bit of a gamble, but it's the business end of the season to try and get in these extra points to make it all happen. So I'm hoping my Liverpool assets will step up this weekend, as much as I hate to say that. I was looking at Greenwood as well for United, but I made these moves at the weekend, so Greenwood by then at that point I didn't actually stepped up the way he did. So may have missed that one, but that's the gamble when you make these moves early.
Yeah, and it's a big gamble from me. I definitely think at least getting rid of Bruno Fernandes for Mason Greenwood, but he's playing in that number 9 role, and I'm fancying him at the minute. I'm liking the way he's playing, liking his form. So I'm just hoping he can keep it up, and he's definitely should be the man to start this weekend, I believe, at least over Cavani with the form that he's in. But it just depends on what. Doesn't matter what I think, it matters what Solskjaer thinks, so it really doesn't matter to me. But let's hope that Greenwood starts this week. And I think that concludes the transfers for the week then, lads. So what we would do now is we will invite our guest, Chris Reed. And if anyone remembers, if you're a long-time viewer of the pod, you remember him from a couple of, well, it had been months ago now. I think it would have been 2 or 3 months ago now. Chris Reed was on, and he's back again because he's doing really well in FPL this week. So how are you doing, Chris?
Not bad, thanks, Elliot. It has been a while, hasn't it? Good to see you boys still going strong. So I'm doing okay. Still hanging in there fantasy wise. I had a good week, but it could have been better. Let's be honest. That Kane triple captain, I think I was sold on that one. I was sold, but obviously he wasn't to play in the second game. So but overall 73. Can't be too displeased with that, I suppose. Yeah.
No,
Really?
definitely not. 73 is a great score, mate.
Really good to have you back on, mate. I know you've been itching to become a permanent member and full-time member of the of the panel. But obviously you took a -8 during the week, and you love a transfer, don't you? You do love a transfer.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's been so difficult because with these city rotations and there's not many striking options at the minute, to kind of find and pick out. Inacho's been he's been in form and he surprised a lot of people, I think, this year. Obviously he wasn't starting a lot for Leicester last year and stuff, and he's finally been given a chance to show what he's about. So like I say, it's been a difficult one. Yeah, I have liked the transfer, the odd one or two. I brought the Lingard in, and then I think it was I can't remember what I did. I think I brought Lingard in, and then I didn't bring him in. I was going to, and then he hit and got 2 goals, and I was just I'm going to have to bring him in. I think when I did, he didn't hit. So it's just been the story of a few of my transfers, really. I've been just trying to, wing it a bit and get a bit lucky, maybe. That's what you need, and I just don't think my transfers have paid off as such. But yeah, I've done it again. I don't know if you looked at this week, but I've absolutely smashed it again on transfers. I think I've made about 4, to be honest. But yeah, it's a case for me now of just getting as many high points as I can. Even if I have got to obviously take a hit with it. So yeah, I enjoy it.
What moves have you made this week then?
Well, I don't know if I can.
We've got your current team up at the moment on the
you
screen.
Got it in front, yeah.
Not with the transfers, but if you talk us through anyone who's watching now, what moves you've made.
Yeah, well, Lacazette's been taken out. That's I think that was obvious. That one, he's gone. I've kept Kane because I think he'll be back soon, unless he gets another knock on Sunday if he plays against City in the final. But I've kept Kane. I've put in Watkins. I was tempted to put JB Vardy in because I think even though he's not been sort of in the same form that he can be, obviously last night he did some bits for Leicester and he played quite well. So I was tempted by that, but I went with Watkins just because I looked at Villa's fixtures. I thought they looked quite good. And then I've also put in Fernandes, Salah, and another surprising one probably is Sigurdsson. But I've kind of, it's kind of double jeopardy in a way because I've got Leno and net, and obviously Arsenal play Everton tonight. So I'm like, come on, Sigurdsson, do the business. And, so I didn't think that one through, but I've just tried to pick someone a bit different. So that's my 4 transfers. I think of Watkins, Sigurdsson, Salah and Fernandes, and I think I'm probably going to captain Salah. I think a lot of people might do that one. Sorry, Elliot, about that one, by the way. I know,
mate, you haven't seen it from before, but my team for this week has got the armband on Salah as well, so absolutely none taken, mate.
I've got. To be fair, I've put the armband on Salah as well. I brought him in for KDB. So yeah, Salah's in with the armband on. What about you this week, Dave?
Well, my team's called K Salah, but he hasn't been in my team since round 5, so I certainly can't put him captain. I think, who did I say? I think I mentioned before we came on air who I was going to captain. It was going to be, I've had Lingard for the last couple of weeks, but I think I'm going to captain Nacho. He's got the game against Crystal Palace, so hopefully he hits.
That's a great shout, to be fair.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will be following you in your footsteps. If it wasn't Salah for me, it was Iheanacho, so he's going to be my vice captain for the week. And but just go back to that Lacazette transfer that you made there, Chris. Did you bring him in before last week in all the hype of him scoring because he scored in the Europa League and everything like that? Did you bring him in just for this week?
No, so he has been in. I've actually had Lacazette in. Just trying to think. I think it's at least a couple of weeks. Had him in game week 31 and as well as that, I think I had him in game week 30 as well. So, oh no, actually, yeah. So 31, actually. No, yeah. I only recently put him in. He's got injured, story of my life. But yeah, it's just one of them. I brought him in just, he's in form. Aubameyang's just out of the picture this season for whatever reason. It seems like Lacazette's the man, but they are going to struggle without him. And I'm going to miss him as well, to be fair, because he was doing okay.
Yeah, he was one that helped out a lot of fantasy managers for last season. But I guess we're calling it a guest section, but you're going to stay on for the rest of the pod, Chris. We're going to go through the Guru section in a minute now. So that wraps up your team review. And now, in the absence of the Guru, we are back and we are here for the Guru section. We've got the draft Guru himself on. We've got Jack, we've got myself, Statman, and Chris. So we can certainly take the Guru section for him. He's a little bit sick and he's buried under with work, he says. So we're sending you our regards, Matt. But in the absence of himself, he's still managed to put out his differentials, his 3 teams, and his captain picks that you can see on the screen now. But if you are just listening along, he started off for his differentials with Wesley Fofana from Leicester. He's got 0.9% ownership. And we spoke about Evans before, Statman, but Fofana's definitely another one that can start getting you the clean sheet points and maybe a couple of goals for Leicester, do you reckon?
Absolutely. 0.9% ownership. He's certainly going to be a big differential for people if they're willing to take that chance, for sure.
Yeah, and the second one on his list there, as we can see, Willian Jose, who's only got the 1 Premier League goal to his name so far. That's probably why he's 0.4% owned. But Wolves with a lot of favourable fixtures coming up. He's been given the number 9 shirt to play up top this season in Jimenez's absence, Jack. So what do you think he can do?
Yeah, obviously he got his first goal last week, didn't he? Against Sheffield United. They've struggled without Jimenez, haven't they? And they've struggled with their squad and the rotation, the formation this season. A lot of different changes in there. But Willian Jose came in for a fair whack of money, probably around 30 mil, I think it was. So it's about time he started scoring. And with the fixtures that they've got, it could be a great choice and great asset to have in there as a bit of as the differential.
Yeah, with the fixtures that they've got coming up, there's not really an excuse for him to not be scoring the goals. And we'll jump to his 5th one now, just because I'm sure Chris would love to talk about Sadio Mane, who's 5.1% owned, which would just be absolutely crazy if you told me that at the start of the season, that Mane would have that little ownership for such a premium asset in Fantasy League this season. So he's considered a differential, Chris. So first of all, that's quite surprising this season, as I've just mentioned. But do you think he can do it this weekend against Newcastle?
I agree with you completely in regards to him, being a surprising differential. But he got a goal. Got the goal last week for us when we played Leeds, and he's looked out of form this season. He hasn't looked himself, but I think if he's going to do it, back into the season is when we kind of need him to deliver the most. So I think he's a good shout, to be fair, sticking him in there. He's cheaper than Salah, obviously. So anyone that's not going for Salah, or you haven't got the the extra cash for Salah, Mane's not a bad shout, to be fair.
Yeah, and we'll go back to number 4 now, and he's got Joel Veltman from Brighton, who's 2.2% owned, and they've got a very, very favourable fixture against bottom of the league Sheffield United this weekend, and you'd like to hope that Brighton would keep a clean sheet there, which is why I've gone with Sanchez in goal for me this weekend. But it's definitely a great differential for someone looking to get some points for this weekend. Obviously, it paid off for everyone that went with the Wolves against Sheffield United this weekend. So we'll see if it's a double bubble. Brighton can do the same. And we'll go to number 3, Jack, and we'll ask you once again about Mason Greenwood, who's been quite the talking point on this podcast so far. He's still only 4.1% owned. I'm sure that will update after this week, because I think he was in the top 5 players that are being transferred in this week as well. But 4.1% ownership for a player of the form that he's in, it's got to be a bargain.
Yeah, it's definitely a bargain, isn't it? I mean, if you said he's more of a differential for this season after his form last year, you'd be buying him straight away, wouldn't you? But towards this latter end of the season now, if he can find a bit of form, continue, bagging the goals, they've always said he's one of the best finishers United have seen for a long time, within the club. So if he can stay up top as the number 9, playing his favourite position, get goals, happy days. He's going to be a bargain and stick with him for sure.
Yeah, he was a cult hero towards the end of last season since it sort of started up again with Project Restart, and he was a lot of people's third striker on their pitch, considering he was low price last season, but he's definitely a bit more expensive this season. So that was the Guru's differentials this week, and now we'll move on to his teams to back. And Chris, I'll ask you once again about Liverpool, and you don't have to go easy on me, mate. I'm expecting a decent margin this weekend. So Liverpool get at home to Newcastle this weekend. Do you think they're going to do the business?
It's not, well, first and foremost, I think it's not like the Guru to put Liverpool in as for number one pick based on this season. So yeah, it surprised me a bit. And I think whenever people have picked whoever Newcastle are playing to kind of be a team to back, Newcastle have come and then surprised us and, pulled off a win or a draw or something like that. So I wouldn't be so confident on that one. I'd like to be confident, obviously, because I follow Liverpool, support them. But and if we can get the job done quite easily, happy days. But I just think on this one, with Newcastle being so surprising and with them fighting the relegation and stuff, you never know with this one. You never know. I don't want to kind of fly in there with confidence and then there's egg on my face and there's you beat us or something like that, and it can happen. So yeah, it's a good choice, but just be wary. That's all I'd say.
Come on, Chris, you're absolutely killing us here, mate. Everyone's put the armband on Salah. We've all spent massive to get him in. You're a Liverpool fan, and now you're giving Elliot, Craig, and Brucey a bit of confidence. Come on, mate.
No, I've got to be honest. I think we'll, I think we'll win comfortably, but I just think there's something in there that tells me that.
I love how you just changed it now. You're going to win comfortably.
Yeah.
Just take that.
No, Joelinton, you never know with Joelinton these days. He's on fire. So
form of his life so far, Joelinton with 2 goals in 3 at the minute. So he's surprised he's not in the Guru's differentials, to be honest. But we'll move on to his second team to back, and we'll go over to you, Statman Dave. Brighton, who have got Sheffield United, and I think it's definitely a week to sort of look at their defensive assets. Brighton, what do you make of it?
Oh, look, I think you can probably look at any position for Brighton this week with Sheffield. You probably expect they're going to score some goals. So, certainly some midfielders or forwards as well who you think might get a goal. But, certainly there's some clean sheets on offer with Sanchez and the defenders as well, like Duncan, that sort of thing. So, you could pretty much look anywhere on the pitch to find some points in that game, I reckon.
Yeah, Sheffield United obviously have looked pretty helpless for most of the season, so it's probably a safe shout from the Guru there to have Brighton on there. And we'll move on to his third team to back of the week, Jack, and it's Leicester. They're firing at the minute, it's sort of all just clicking for Brendan Rodgers and everything towards the end of the season, and they're sort of solidifying themselves within that sort of top 4 range at the minute, so it's no surprise that he's in the Guru's team to back.
Yeah, it's not a shock at all. Obviously, they've got a good fixture against Palace at home. I think it's the first time Rodgers is now in a position where he's got 2 strikers who can actually score goals. They've always struggled when Vardy's not been in the team. Now Vardy's been out of the team. Kelechi and Nacho, he's been bagging, and then Vardy's come back in. Been a bit quiet the last couple of weeks, but then bagging 2 scored this morning. He's now got 2 players on the pitch. Whether he sticks with that 2 up top, which he's not traditionally done, or the previous done in seasons gone by. They're in a great position, aren't they, really?
Yeah, it's definitely one of their positions to lose, but Brendan Rodgers is known for choking it towards the end of the season, especially in the top 4 range, but we won't go into that too much for your sake, Chris, and we'll move on to the Guru's captain picks. We'll move on to his captain picks quite quickly, and I'll just reel them off. So he's gone with Salah, who I'm sure will be a lot of people's choices for this week, and then he's got the strike partnership that we just talked about of Vardy and Iheanacho, who would both respectively be brilliant options. Fernandes, who's got that nice fixture against Leeds. Watkins, who's also someone that's been transferred in quite a bit for this week, and then for his curveball, he's gone with Mason Greenwood, which I'm a big fan of. But that wraps up another awesome Guru section, courtesy of the brains of Matt Day, the Guru. And we'll move on now to the draft section of the podcast, and as Statman Dave said before, he said he should be the Melbourne Victory manager because he's 6 games on the dot without a win, and his team are in need of a new manager, as you can see. We'll move on to the results of last week. It was quite a it's definitely made a lot of changes in the table of for the FPL Addicts Draft League. So we started off the week with Jack against Dave, and as we mentioned, Jack has beaten Dave 54-38. So the Statman's troubles continue on a little bit longer. Ollie beat Rolando by 10 points, 47-37. Probably not as close as Ollie would have liked for it to be, but he's got the win in the end anyway. The Guru beat me by 11 points, which was the highlighted game of the week, which was the Guru's assets fired and mine didn't as much, but 42 in any week isn't an awful scoring draft. And then we've had I think it's our second draw of the season, lads. It's Papa Peely and James Gaston both on 46 points. And I believe they were the ones that got the draws earlier in the season. Oh, no, it was James and Rolando. So James, that's his second draw of the season, which is quite unlucky. Wow. He's relaxing there with 14 wins, 14 losses and 2 draws. And then Rolando and Peely have both got a draw each as well. But we'll move on to this week of draft. And it's another week of good fixtures. I think it's definitely sort of me and Jack and Ollie and Matt. They're 2 massive, massive fixtures come the end of the season. And Statman, are you backing yourself to win against Peely this week? You've got to.
Yeah, well, I hope so. Like, I'm still the highest point scorer of the league, and somehow I've slipped to 5th. So it's haven't had a lot of great luck with my matchups, but I think I've generally been performing fairly well in draft. I just keep coming up against the couple of teams who have hit form. So, and Jack had a pretty massive score this week, so I don't think anyone was really going to beat him.
Yeah, and that's how it is in these head-to-head leagues. It can sometimes just be the luck of the draw, the team that you're playing against on the day. As you mentioned, you've got the highest points in the league, so you've definitely not had a bad draft season. If it was a classic league, you'd be right up at the top there. But unfortunately, it's not. So you're not, unfortunately, Statman. We'll move on to your opinion on the week now, Jack, against me. Are you backing yourself to get 3 points this weekend? Because you're another one that's sort of slipped down now. You're not top of the league, as we will show now. I believe the Guru is the man. The Guru and Ollie. So it's first against second this week. The Guru and Ollie, the 2 heavyweights clashing, and you're going to get that draft Guru title taken away from you at the minute, Jack.
I know. Well, to be fair, I shouldn't have a title when I've not won it before. So it's I was always faking it to make it this season. But listen, we're looking good in the season so far. I think I had like 3 or 4 back-to-back losses, a bit like Statman Dave. But obviously he bottled it this week, so I managed to get a win there. And then this week against you, obviously coming out of your loss, I need to have a look at my team. I don't know if you want to get the teams up, mate, and see what we can, if we can look a bit further. I think the top of the table clash is the big one. But looking at that one, I brought Roden in for the week, but I've transferred him out already. I've put up he's gone. He's gone. Target's coming for him. So he had a good run for 2 games. And then in midfield, I'm struggling because I've actually got Ings, Antonio, and Kane as my strikers. And now Antonio is the only one who might be fit. But I don't even know if he is going to be fit or not. I think he's like a 75% chance at the moment. So if he's not in, then I've got no strikers, mate. So when I put it like that, I'm probably, I don't think I'm going to be getting it. I don't think the 3 points is on the cards.
Well, fingers crossed, none of them are past fit for this week, and they can all have a well-earned break. And we'll go over to my team now, 42 points. And I always say when most of my City assets fire and play, which Cancelo and Sterling didn't this season, I usually have a good week. But Foden did the business. Reece James did the business. Trent, who we mentioned before, being one that a lot of people are getting in, did the business. But then after that, it wasn't really much doing in my team. So we'll go over to you, Chris, after seeing those 2 there, trusting that there isn't too much transfer activity from us both, which I doubt there will be because there's not much left for this draft league. Who are you backing to take this win out in game week 33, mate?
Even though I like Jack very much, it's going to have to be Elliot.
Emotional strikers on the pitch, can I?
It's a very, very difficult one. Obviously, Jack's gonna, he's gonna struggle with Kane and Ings both not playing. I think they're out, aren't they? Because of the cup final, and then I don't think Southampton have they got a game, but
they've got no fixture.
Yeah. So it does leave you Antonio. So. I'm just going to have to go for Elliot. I mean, unless Jack pulls off a masterclass in midfield and defence, it's probably going to be the Elliot win, I think. Sorry, Jack.
That's all right, mate. I brought in Tillemans from Leicester. So if he instead of St Maximum, so if he somehow pulls a hat trick out of the bag against Crystal Palace, that'll be all right, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't that be lovely for you? Definitely not for me, but I'm not too convinced myself that I'll win. I've got 4 Man City assets who all aren't going to be playing, so
that's what you get for being greedy, yeah?
Yeah,
not sharing the City assets all year. That's what you get.
I've hoarded them all season, mate. You're not wrong. I've hoarded them from the start, and it's going to bite me on the proverbial behind this week, I think. So it's just going to be interesting to see how it goes. But we will ask Statman about, the big, I'd say the biggest game of the week, Jack. As much as I'd like to call ours the biggest, I think the Guru against Ollie is probably the biggest of the week. So we'll have a quick look at the Guru's team. 53 points. He had Hugo Lloris. So he's also got 3 Spurs assets that aren't going to be playing this week, and 2 of his Man City assets that aren't going to be playing as well. So it's definitely going to be an interesting one this week. We'll have a quick look over at Ollie's team as well, and then we will ask for everybody's verdict on the panel for what the game of the week is going to be. Ollie has Patricio, Wan-Bissaka, Zuma, Tosin Adarabioyo, Veltman, who was one of the Guru's differentials.
Look at his strikers.
Bowen, and then Watkins and Vardy up top, as we've mentioned a lot on this podcast as well. So, he's probably got no excuse to not win it on from here. I'm definitely going to say that I'm going to back Ollie for this week, but what are your thoughts, Statman?
I think I'd agree with that. I think, his team's looking pretty solid. I was just looking to see who's hit the waivers this week, and Matty's got Sanchez in. He swapped Sanchez in for Leno, but don't think that'll be enough to get him past Ollie, I don't think.
Yeah, and what do you make of it, Jack?
Oh, listen, he's got Watkins and Vardy up top. He's even got Calvert-Lewin on the bench who are playing Arsenal. So, yeah, it's got to be Ollie. If it's not Ollie, that would be a shock of the week, mate.
We'll have to see if it is a shock of the week next week. But Chris, what do you make of that? Who are you backing, the Guru or Ollie?
It'll have to be a full house, yeah. I think Ollie's got the right players in at the right time, I think. So, yeah, he'll be hoping he gets a win because he hates a loss, as we know. But yeah, so we'll have to go for Ollie as well, I think.
Yeah, so if I'm sure that would cheer the Guru up when he's watching it back on later to see that no one's backing him in his sickness and his work troubles at the minute. So we're sorry for that one, Matt, but we'd love to have a shock win from you this week. But that wraps up the Guru section for the week, and that is going to end another brilliant podcast for the week. We're all really excited for game week 33. Obviously, a lot of people are getting Iheanacho and the Leicester assets in. So I think I speak for all of us when I say we're hoping that him and Watkins and people like that fire. But may all your FPL dreams come true, and take care and stay safe. Bye for now.